On her 18th birthday, Lily finds an old phone and a decade-old betrayal. Her twin sister. Her boyfriend. Her parents' silence. But just as the truth shatters her world, she wakes up in her 17-year-old body. This time she won't beg. She won't break. And she certainly won't be the girl they threw away. Revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, cold, and unforgettable. The storage room hadn't changed in years. The smell of mildew hung in the air like a stubborn ghost, clinging to the damp corners and the untouched boxes stacked carelessly along the wall. I had only opened the door because Ryan had come home drunk again the night before, and I needed a reason to escape the sound of his vomiting in the bathroom. Somehow, even that felt less nauseating than the things he muttered under his breath in his sleep. Emily's name. Over and over. I shut the door behind me, the darkness swallowing me whole until I flipped the switch and revealed the mess of our forgotten past. Somewhere beneath the tangled extension cords and moldy photo albums I found it. Ryan's old phone. Black, slightly chipped, heavier than I remembered. A relic from the early years of our relationship. One he claimed had been permanently locked after he forgot the password. I tried everything, he told me once. It locked up for like 80 hours. I just gave up. I sat on the floor with it in my hands, staring at the blank screen. For some reason I couldn't put it down. 10 years together. Married. Shared bank accounts. Family dinners. Fights and laughter. Promises whispered under heavy blankets. I thought I knew everything about him. But this phone, it felt like a forgotten thread, tugging at something I hadn't noticed unraveling. I brought it to the kitchen and dug through drawers until I found a wide port charger. One of those clunky old cables we hadn't used in ages. Miraculously it still worked. I plugged the phone in. It blinked to life. Battery, 6%. Locked. Try again in 4 hours. 4 hours. Just enough time to clean the mess Ryan left behind. By the time I had finished scrubbing the floors and airing out the sheets, the old phone was at 42% battery, and the timer had run out. I sat on the edge of the bed, the phone in my hands, my heart racing like I was breaking into something sacred. I tried to remember what password Ryan might have used 10 years ago. And then it struck me. My birthday. 6 digits. MMDD. The day he gave me a cheap bouquet and told me I was the one. The day he kissed me under the cherry blossoms and whispered, "I've always loved you, Lily." I typed it in. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted it to be wrong. It wasn't. The screen unlocked. The wallpaper wasn't me. It wasn't a landscape or our dog or some motivational quote. It was her. Emily. Her head turned slightly, lips parted mid-laugh, her hair catching sunlight like a halo. My sister. My twin. I froze. My thumb hovered before sliding up the screen. What greeted me next was even worse. The lock screen photo? Also her. A mirror selfie, slightly blurred, Emily in her dance outfit. Casual. Natural. Familiar. But the intimacy behind it, the choice, felt like a slap. I tapped into the photo gallery. There were hundreds of images. Not a single one of me. Instead, there were secret shots of Emily taken from a distance. Some of her walking, stretching, tying her hair. Others clearly from school. Her at the cafeteria, at the dance studio, in the parking lot. Some blurred, some too close. Some in motion like he didn't want to get caught. There were folders too. One marked E, one marked summer, and one just labeled with a heart emoji. My hands began to sweat. I tapped open the E folder. Videos. Short ones. 10 seconds here. 20 there. Emily laughing with her friends. Emily wiping sweat from her brow after rehearsal. Emily walking ahead of whoever was holding the camera. Probably Ryan. I backed out quickly, heart pounding. Then I opened the Messages app. His contact list was sparse. Mostly group chats from years ago, but one thread had been pinned. Emily Dizzy. I tapped it. There, preserved like a nightmare frozen in time, were messages I was never meant to see. Ryan. You always look so perfect. How do you do that? Emily. I don't know. Genetics. Woman shrugging. Ryan. Then your sister got cheated. Face with tears of joy. Emily. Stop it. That's mean. Ryan. It's true. You're a star. It's fine. Emily. You're married to her, Ryan. Ryan. Only because you ghosted me. Emily. We were kids. You don't still feel the same. Ryan. I do. I never stopped. And now you're divorced. Are we really going to pretend we never felt anything? Emily. Ryan, this is wrong. Ryan. Then why haven't you blocked me? I scrolled further, faster, my stomach churning. They talked about me. My schedule. My cooking. My habits. He teased him about me being boring. He responded with laughter. And then, abruptly, she stopped replying. Her final message short and cold. I like someone else. Let's end this here. I scrolled up to see the timestamp. It was the same day Ryan came home with bruised knuckles and said his phone had locked after too many failed password attempts. That day he changed everything to my birthday. My chest began to tighten. I backed out of the messages and tapped into the Notes app. Maybe I was looking for a to-do list. Or maybe, deep down, I was chasing the last lie. There it was. Confession draft. Dated years ago. Updated the same day as Emily's final message. I opened it. It was all there. The same speech Ryan had delivered to me on my 18th birthday. Word for word. The trembling sincerity. The promise of forever. The sentimental metaphors. All of it, the same. Dear Emily Harper. I dropped the phone. It hit the rug with a dull thud. I stared at it, the screen now dark. My reflection glared back from the black glass. Pale, wide-eyed, heartbroken. My breathing became shallow. So that day, the one I thought was the start of our love story, it had been a recycled performance. A fallback plan. I had been plan B. My head spun. I reached for the edge of the nightstand to steady myself, but the pressure in my chest was unbearable. Like I was being crushed from the inside. 10 years of birthdays. 10 years of anniversaries. 10 years of believing I was loved. I tried to stand, but my knees buckled beneath me. The last thing I saw before the world went black was the name on the note. Emily Harper. I opened my eyes to a world that felt too still. The ceiling above me was white with small cracks I didn't recognize. A fluorescent bulb flickered in the corner. The sharp scent of old wood and chalk dust hung in the air. Slowly I sat up. The blanket over me was pink, with faded cartoon bunnies printed across it. My throat tightened. This wasn't my bed. This wasn't the apartment I shared with Ryan. This wasn't even the guest room at my parents' house. This was my old room. From the countryside. The one I hadn't seen since I was 17. No, I whispered aloud. But the evidence was everywhere. The wobbly desk in the corner, the stuffed bear with one eye, the carved initials on the bed frame that said Al+, in clumsy, childish lines. My knees trembled as I pulled the blanket back and stood. I stumbled toward the vanity mirror on the wall. And then I saw her. Me, but not the me I'd seen yesterday in the mirror. Not the me with slight lines near her eyes and years of exhaustion tucked into her skin. The reflection staring back was my 17-year-old self. Big-eyed. Younger. Unscarred. I pressed both palms to the desk. This isn't possible. And yet it was. I bolted from the room, heart pounding, barely noticing the draft of cold morning air slipping in through the hallway windows. My mind raced. How? Why? Was this a dream? Or was it a second chance? I turned down the familiar hallway and flung open the bathroom door. And froze. Urinals. I blinked, confused, then heard voices outside the stall door. Footsteps. I spun and lunged into one of the empty stalls, locking it just as the door creaked open. Are you seriously going to confess today? A boy's voice echoed. I mean, yeah, came the reply, nonchalant. Why not? I knew that voice. Ryan Harper. There was no mistaking it. That relaxed arrogance. That easy tone that always carried a smirk. His friend snorted. You think you have a shot with the school beauty? She's got half the grade wrapped around her finger. Ryan said casually. Whether she says yes or not, it doesn't matter. If I fail, I've still got Lily Harper. My breath caught. His friend laughed. Wow. So you've got a backup plan now? Yeah, Ryan said, still laughing. She's always hanging around. Gets me snacks. Runs errands. Not bad looking either. She just sticks around like a loyal puppy. Another round of snickering followed. Ryan added with a mock whisper. Honestly, it's kind of sad. She's got no idea. Lily and Emily are twins, right? His friend asked. Yup. But how the hell are they related? Emily's a goddess. Like background wallpaper. Still useful, Ryan said smugly. She lines up for food. Carried my books last week. You know, she even offered to take notes for me during math. They both laughed again. The sound bounced off the tiled walls like cruel echoes. I stood frozen in the stall, my hand clamped over my mouth. "You think Emily will say yes?" his friend asked. Ryan snorted. "Probably not. But if she doesn't, whatever. I'll ask Lily out next week. Make her feel special. She'll say yes. She always does." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was 17 again, hearing the truth from behind a bathroom stall. That I was just someone's second choice. A backup plan. Utility. A prop. Their voices faded as the door swung open and shut. I stayed inside the stall for what felt like forever. Then slowly, carefully I stepped out. I didn't cry. Not this time. Back in the classroom I slipped quietly into my seat. The wooden desk was still etched with graffiti and marker doodles. I ran my fingers along the familiar grooves. This had been my world once. Emily walked in moments later, graceful as ever in her pristine uniform. She sat beside me without a word, then subtly shifted her chair half an inch farther away. It was always like that. Like she couldn't stand the idea of sharing oxygen. I glanced at her, at the girl who had grown up in the city, fed on milk warmed by motherly hands, dressed in delicate pink dresses and sent to dance lessons. But I had grown up in the countryside, raised by our strict grandparents, fed powdered milk, scolded for mistakes, taught not to speak unless spoken to. We were twins, but only on paper. The bell rang. My body moved automatically, opening my workbook as the teacher walked in. But my mind was spinning. Because I knew what was coming. Ryan would try to ask Emily out. She'd reject him. And then he'd come to me. Just like before. But this time I would not smile. I would not blush. I would not believe a single word. Because now I knew the truth. I had lived it. During lunch break, I noticed Ryan hovering in the hallway, casually leaning against the doorway with one hand stuffed into his pocket. He gave me a quick nod. I didn't return it. He waited a moment, then slowly walked into the room. Like clockwork, his knuckles tapped the edge of my desk. "Lily," he said, tilting his head in that fake cool way, "the cafeteria's got some new dish today. I hear it's pretty good." Translation: "Go get it for me." I smiled just a little. "Oh. Then you should hurry and get in line," I replied smoothly. His smirk faltered. "I mean," I added lightly, "by the time you decide to go it might be sold out. And wouldn't that be a shame?" Emily looked up from her seat, brows furrowed in confusion. Ryan blinked. I picked up my notebook and calmly walked away. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. I didn't care if he called after me. Because something in me had shifted. No more errands. No more smiles for scraps of attention. No more believing I was lucky to be noticed. No more waiting for leftovers when I deserved a full meal. It didn't take long for Emily to strike back. After my calm dismissal of Ryan in front of half the class, she spent the next hour seething beside me in total silence. I could feel the tension in the space between us like a live wire stretched taut. She didn't speak until the bell rang for lunch. "Lily," she said sweetly, too sweetly, "bring lunch to my dorm. I have something I need to discuss with Ryan." I turned to her slowly as if I hadn't heard correctly. Her expression was composed but smug, like a queen commanding a handmaid. She even leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowed, clearly expecting me to obey. This was Emily's way. She always got what she wanted. And when she didn't, she made sure someone else paid for it. "I'm not bringing it," I replied, matching her smile with one of my own. Only mine had teeth. Her brow twitched. "What?" I said, "I'm not bringing you lunch," I said louder so everyone around us could hear. "Are you deaf? Or just entitled?" A collective silence spread through the classroom. A few heads turned. Emily's face turned pale, then flushed an angry red. "You," she sputtered. "You dare." "I do," I cut in, standing up and slinging my bag over my shoulder. "You're not my queen, Emily. And I'm not your servant." Before she could recover, I walked right out of the room. The cafeteria line was long, but I didn't mind. I bought exactly what I wanted: braised pork ribs, crispy tofu, a cold bottle of tea, and took my time eating at the back courtyard under the banyan tree, shaded from the early spring sun. For once, I wasn't worried about hurrying back to serve anyone. I wasn't missing my chance at lunch just to bring food to someone who never said thank you. When I finally returned to the dorm to drop off my bag, I opened the door and found Emily waiting inside. She wasn't even assigned to my dorm. She stood up the moment she saw me, arms crossed, fuming. "Where's my lunch?" I stared at her, deliberately slow as I walked across the room. "Did you mistake me for your butler? You think this is funny?" she shouted. "I told you to bring me lunch." "And I told you no," I said evenly. Emily gawked at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're doing this on purpose. You're trying to humiliate me in front of the class." "Oh, don't flatter yourself," I said coolly. "You're not that interesting." That did it. Her face twisted. "I'll tell Mom and Dad. You'll be in so much trouble." I raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I knew what was coming next. That weekend when we returned home, the air was thick the moment I walked through the front door. Emily was already there, perched on the living room couch beside our mother, a cup of tea in hand, her expression the perfect picture of sadness. As soon as my shoes were off, a remote control came flying at my head. It hit me squarely in the forehead. Pain exploded behind my eyes. "What the hell is wrong with you?" my mother screamed, rising from her seat. Before I could even speak, she was on me, not with fists but with words that cut deeper. "You ungrateful brat. How hard is it to bring your sister lunch? She's your elder. What kind of twisted girl refuses such a simple thing? She's starving herself because of you," my father added, standing at the edge of the hallway. "What's gotten into you lately? You've become disrespectful. Rude." "I bet she's jealous," my mother hissed, crossing her arms. "Emily shines in everything she does and you can't even do this one thing." They didn't ask me for my side. They never did. They just assumed Emily's version of the truth was gospel. I stood there, blood pounding in my ears, the remote still buzzing in my skull, and realized. They didn't need facts. They needed a scapegoat. I slowly lowered the hand from my bruised forehead and stared at them. "I'm not apologizing," I said flatly. My mother's eyes widened. "What did you say?" "I said I'm not apologizing," I repeated louder. "If that upsets you, go ahead. Beat me." And she did. Her palm cracked across my cheek so hard I stumbled into the cabinet. The vase on top wobbled and clattered to the floor, shattering. But I didn't cry. Not this time. I just stood up straight and walked to my room, slamming the door behind me. My chest burned with fury as I grabbed the old phone I had hidden under my pillow. A model I remembered well from this timeline. The screen lit up with a soft blue glow. I tapped open the contacts and scrolled down to one name. Grandma. I hit video call. Rang once, twice, then connected. The sight of her face on the screen made something in me crumble. "Lily?" she asked, her smile turning to concern the moment she saw my face. "What happened? What's that bruise?" I lifted the camera to show her both my forehead and the red mark on my cheek. "Mom hit me," I whispered, the tears finally rising. "They're going to kill me." Grandma's gasp was immediate. "Don't move," she barked. "Don't you dare move. I'm coming. I'm calling your grandfather right now." "Grandma." "No," she interrupted. "No more. No one lays a finger on my granddaughter and gets away with it." The screen shook as she moved. I heard her yelling, calling out to Grandpa. My chest heaved with sobs I hadn't realized I'd held in. "Sweetheart," she said, coming back into view, "listen to me. We're coming to get you. No one's going to hurt you again. You hear me? No one." "Okay," I whispered, voice breaking. "Okay." The knock on the front door wasn't polite. It was thunder. I sat frozen on my bed, clutching a towel to my bruised cheek as the second knock came, louder, sharper. Then the doorknob twisted with a metallic clack. The door slammed open. "Lily." Grandma's voice boomed from the hallway. "Where is she?" I rushed out of my room just as she stormed in, followed by Grandpa, his coat half off, his expression like a storm cloud ready to strike. And then chaos erupted. My mother had barely stood up from the couch when Grandpa slapped my father across the face. The sound echoed. "You let this happen?" he barked. "You let your wife hit my granddaughter? In my son's house?" My father staggered backward, holding his cheek, stunned into silence. "Dad. Don't you dare dad me," Grandpa snapped. "We sent her here for a better future, and you let her get beaten like a criminal." My grandmother was already across the room. He didn't hesitate. She stormed straight to my mother and slapped her thighs, theatrically collapsing to her knees with a wail loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. "Oh, my poor Lily," she sobbed, grabbing my hands. "I raised her with love. Fed her, bathed her, watched her grow. And now look, bruises on her face. Her own mother hit her. How can heaven tolerate this?" "Enough, Mom," my mother snapped, clearly flustered. "You're exaggerating." "You think this is exaggerating?" Grandma screamed, jabbing her finger at my cheek. "Do you think my Lily drew this bruise with a pencil?" Doors up and down the hallway creaked open. Neighbors peeked out, watching. Embarrassment spread across my parents' faces like spilled ink. "Please," my dad hissed, stepping in, "you're making a scene." "Oh, I intend to make a scene," Grandpa shot back. "You deserve worse." The living room was a battlefield. My mother tried to defend herself. "Emily said." "Don't even start." Grandma barked. "Emily always says something. But it's Lily who gets hit. Lily who gets blamed. Lily who gets told she's not wanted." "That's not true," my mom argued weakly. Grandpa turned to my father again. "Where were you? You didn't stop it. You didn't protect her. Don't talk to me about true." I wasn't home when it happened," Dad muttered. "And when you were?" Grandpa demanded. "You slashed her allowance. Told her she's ruined. Sided with Emily every time." A chair scraped against the tile. I looked over. Emily was slipping quietly out of the room, her eyes wide. She knew better than to try to intervene now. It took nearly 30 minutes before the shouting slowed. By then, the neighbors had disappeared and my mother had gone to her room, slamming the door like a child. My dad stood awkwardly at the edge of the kitchen, rubbing his temples. Finally, Grandpa said what I didn't realize I'd been waiting to hear. "We're staying." "What?" my father said, alarmed. "We're staying," Grandma repeated, calmer now but no less firm. "Until her college entrance exams are over. And if you try to stop us, we'll take her and go." "You can't just move in," Dad protested. "Why not?" Grandpa raised an eyebrow. "Isn't this my son's house? Didn't I help buy it?" Silence. "Or should we go get the deed and see how much money came from my account?" he added. More silence. My father sighed. "Fine." That night, Grandma stayed in my room. She brought in her own quilt and laid it beside mine on the floor. The moment the lights were off, I felt her hand stroke my hair like she used to when I was little. "Grandma." I whispered. I'm sorry," I said, voice cracking. "I shouldn't have stopped calling you. I thought if I did everything Mom asked, she'd like me." Her hand paused, then resumed. "You don't have to explain," she said softly. "I always knew." "I missed you," I choked out. "I missed you more," she whispered. "But I never blamed you. Because no matter what anyone says, Lily, you are my child." I closed my eyes, tears rolling silently onto the pillow. "She's not your real mom, Lily. She gave birth to you, yes. But I raised you. I taught you to walk, to read. I kissed your scraped knees. I tucked you in every night. So when you think of mother, you think of me. That's not wrong. Will you stay?" I asked, fragile. He squeezed my hand. "Until you don't need me anymore." The next few days were quieter. My parents avoided me. Emily didn't speak to me at all. The house felt split in two, my parents and Emily on one side and my grandparents and me on the other. But for once I wasn't afraid. Every morning, Grandma made me hot soup and packed snacks in my bag. Grandpa walked me to the gate and patted my shoulder. The world was still cold, but I wasn't alone anymore. One afternoon, Emily passed me in the hallway at home and muttered, "You think you've won something?" I didn't answer. As I didn't need to. The days that followed blurred into a rhythm of quiet strength. Gone were the small smiles. Gone was the reflex to please. I moved through the hallways like someone who had been made of glass, but was now iron. I didn't answer to Emily's cutting looks. I didn't respond to Ryan's smirking nods. But it didn't take long for him to try and pull me back into orbit. It happened late one afternoon, just before the self-study period. I had been walking down the side corridor near the library, the sky outside darkening into amber and gold. The quiet footfalls behind me didn't bother me until the voice did. "Lily Harper." I stopped. Ryan Harper stood just behind me, arms crossed, expression tight. "I don't like disobedient people," he said like I was his employee. "Apologize to Emily." I blinked at him slowly. "Apologize? You came all this way just to say that?" asked my tone dry. She's your sister, he added, puffing up. You should be the one too. You like her, don't you? I said suddenly. Ryan blinked. What? Emily, I said coolly. You like her. Don't bother denying it. He shifted awkwardly, surprised by my bluntness. I'll help you, I said, cutting in before he could lie. If you want her, I'll help you get her. That caught his attention. He tilted his head. Why would you help me? I stepped closer, the shadow of the staircase dimming the light between us. Because Emily hates me. The more I anger her, the more desperate she gets. She'll do anything to win. Ryan squinted, half amused, half skeptical. And if she thinks I like you, I paused, letting the implication settle. She'll chase you just to prove she can win. Right now she thinks she's already won. There was a long silence. Then Ryan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smirking. So you want me to pretend to like you? No, I said. I want you to act like you do. Flirt with me. Write me notes. Walk with me in the hallway. Just enough to rattle her. And what do you get out of this? He asked. I smiled faintly. The satisfaction of watching her squirm. He studied me for a moment. I could see the gears turning in his head. The opportunity to play the center of attention between two sisters. Of course he said yes. All right, he said, extending his hand. Let's play. I didn't shake it. The self-study session that night was loosely supervised, as always. Students were scattered across half-empty classrooms, eyes buried in textbooks and mock exams. I took a seat near the window in Class 7, the evening light casting golden slants across my desk. Ryan waltzed in 10 minutes later, and chose the empty seat directly behind me. Whispers stirred like wind through dry grass. I didn't turn. He tapped my back with his pen cap. I glanced over my shoulder. He passed me a folded note. I glanced at it, then at him. He winked. The performance had begun. I pretended to scribble something and passed it back. A few desks away, Emily sat frozen, face expressionless, but hands clenched around her pen. I didn't look her way again. 10 minutes later she stood and stormed over. Without a word she reached for the note. I tucked it in my pocket and bent over my workbook as if she weren't there. From behind me Ryan let out a low whistle. Emily's eyes snapped toward him, then back at me. You think this is funny? She hissed. I didn't answer. She returned to her seat, but not before sending me a glare sharp enough to slice glass. Perfect. After class ended I took my time packing up, giving them just enough head start. Sure enough, I caught sight of them near the side hallway, Emily grabbing Ryan's arm. What were you two writing on that note? She demanded. Ryan shrugged, cool as ever. Nothing important. Didn't you say you'd make Lily apologize to me? Ryan leaned back, hands in his pockets. Yeah, but I kind of like her. Emily stared at him, eyes wide. What? She listens to me. She's sweet, Ryan said with a smug little grin. I think I'll give her a shot. You like her? Did I say I liked you? He asked innocently. The air between them snapped. Emily's hands balled into fists. You can't like Lily. You're not allowed to like her. Why not? Ryan asked, clearly enjoying the chaos. Because I like you, she burst out. Ryan blinked, then smirked. You do. Her eyes darted away as if she'd surprised even herself. Dump Lily, she said flatly. Be with me. I didn't even need to look at Ryan to know he was glowing. He'd won. Or at least he thought he had. He hesitated just long enough before saying, Lily's done a lot for me. I should at least give her a chance. Emily sneered. Then I'll make you choose. And you'll choose me. She stormed off. I stepped out of the shadows and found Ryan standing there grinning to himself. You're enjoying this way too much, I said. He shrugged. You're a genius. I tilted my head. Just remember, Ryan. It's a game. He looked confused for a moment. But I didn't explain. The next day, Emily was a hurricane in ballet shoes. She accidentally brushed past me in the hallway, tripped over my bag and glared at me like I'd plotted it. She brought Ryan sweets in the morning and I caught her stuffing a cute bento box into his locker during lunch. She even curled her hair, something she rarely did. And Ryan? He played the part well. He flirted with me in public, handed me notes between classes, and once even pulled a chair for me before I could sit. Everyone was watching. Everyone was whispering. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that this time the girl in the shadows was the one pulling the strings. Emily had always known how to take center stage, but now she couldn't stomach not being the lead. Especially not when Ryan Harper, the boy she once discarded, was suddenly paying attention to me. And worse, when I wasn't even trying. She started overcompensating. After Ryan sat behind me during self-study and passed another folded note, blank again but timed perfectly for attention, Emily stormed over the moment class ended. I didn't even flinch as she tried to intercept it. She was unraveling. Exactly as planned. 2 days later she cornered me after class, her expression flaring between irritation and desperation. "Why are you playing dumb?" she snapped. "You know he likes me." I tilted my head, pretending confusion. "Does he?" She scoffed, looking me over. "Of course he does. He's just trying to get back at me. Using you as bait." "Then let him," I said simply. She blinked. "What?" "Let him use me," I said again calmly. "If it bothers you so much, maybe that's your own fault." Her mouth opened but no words came out. Then I stepped closer. "You know he's lying to both of us, right?" I said, voice lower now. "He told me he likes you but wanted to give me a chance first." Emily paled slightly. "He said the same to you, didn't he?" I added. "That he likes me but couldn't forget you." He stiffened. "I just thought you should know," I finished, offering a sweet smile. "He's not choosing you, Emily. He's keeping both of us dangling to feed his ego." Emily stood frozen as I walked away. I didn't expect her to believe me. But I knew she would think about it. Over and over. Every time Ryan looked her way. Every time he sat near me. Every time someone whispered about the Harper sisters chasing the same boy. The seed was planted. And Emily didn't know how to handle doubt. Our birthday arrived 3 days later. April 5th. The same date, the same family dinner. As tradition dictated, we were to go home after school and have cake with our parents. They would pretend to love both of us equally for the evening, and then resume their favoritism by morning. I wasn't interested in the charade, but I went anyway. Just for this year. Just once more. That afternoon at school, Ryan waited outside the dorm building, holding a bouquet of pink carnations. The same kind he gave me in our first life. The same ones I now knew had once been meant for Emily. He looked nervous. Excited. Emily saw him from the balcony and didn't come down. Instead she sent her classmate with a message. She says, the girl recited, "She's still upset you didn't defend her when she got called to the office. She's not coming unless you prove you care." Ryan looked confused. "Office? What office?" Before he could finish, the girl walked away. And Ryan, ever determined, stood outside in the early spring wind for over an hour, clutching those flowers like a tragic protagonist in some B-list drama. A crowd gathered. Everyone watched. Finally, Emily descended the stairs with slow, deliberate steps. She wore a soft yellow dress, her hair curled perfectly. She stood in front of him, arms crossed. "Ryan Harper," she said loudly, "are you really this delusional?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ryan opened his mouth, but she raised her hand. "I was just playing with you. You think I'd actually want a guy like you? You've got average grades, no looks, no charm, and your family's a mess." He stared at her in stunned silence. "No wonder your parents divorced," she added cruelly. "If I had a son like you, I'd rather die." Gasps echoed around them. Someone dropped their boba cup. Ryan's face twisted. The humiliation was visible in every line of his body. He stammered. "Say that again." "I said," Emily repeated, "you're not worth even a second look." Ryan's jaw clenched. He looked like he might lunge forward, but some boys stepped in, holding him back. The flowers dropped from his hand. They hit the ground with a soft, tragic thud. Carnations scattered like confetti across concrete. Emily walked away with her head high as if she'd just won a war. But she didn't see me, watching from behind the third-floor pillar, arms folded, face unreadable. It was the same speech she'd given him in our previous life. Only this time, the stage was public. And the audience unforgiving. That evening the dining room was uncomfortably bright. 2 cakes sat at the center of the table. A strawberry chiffon for Emily and, for the first time ever, a mango cake for me. I stared at it for a long moment. I was allergic to mangoes as a child. Or rather, Emily was, and so they banned mangoes from the house altogether. Even when I loved them. Even when I begged. Tonight for the first time I had one. A quiet peace washed over me, bitter but oddly satisfying. As we sat, my mother poured juice into Emily's glass and placed a hand over hers. Emily, our sweet girl. Today you officially become a woman. After your entrance exams, we'll give you the grand celebration you deserve. I looked down at my untouched cake. My grandmother reached over and gently touched my hand. We'll throw you one too, she whispered. A better one. You'll see. The room was divided, Emily glowing under the praise of our parents, me quietly tucked away as always beside my grandparents. It had always been like this. And tonight I decided I wanted to hear it said out loud. When the candles were lit and we were told to make a wish, I didn't blow them out. Instead, I looked at the three faces across from me, my mother, my father, and Emily. Can I ask something? I said calmly. My mother raised an eyebrow. What is it? Why do you hate me? I asked, the words simple but sharp. The room froze. My mother blinked. My father shifted uncomfortably. Emily stared at her plate. No one hates you, my father said quickly. Don't say things like that. I'm asking seriously, I continued, my voice steady. Today is my birthday. I'm not asking for gifts or cake. I'm just asking why. My mother's jaw tightened. Don't start this. I just want to know, I said again. Why am I always the one left out? Why is it so hard for you to be kind to me? My father sighed. Lily, you weren't raised with us. It's just hard to connect. I nodded. And that's my fault? He looked away. My mother crossed her arms. You've always been too sensitive. Emily was sick all the time when she was little. I didn't have the energy for both of you. I see, I said. And then I turned to Emily. What about you? She looked up startled. Why do you hate me? Her lips parted but no words came. I didn't wait. I hope all three of you find peace, I said. Whatever decisions you made, I'll accept them. But I won't carry the weight of them anymore. I blew out the candle. Silence. My parents didn't know what to say. They had expected me to remain polite. To pretend nothing had changed. To be the good daughter and the silent twin. But that girl was gone. Later that night as I lay on my bed, I stared at the ceiling and whispered the vow only I would hear. After the exams I'm leaving. For good. Not in anger. Not in bitterness. But because I deserved more than to be someone's second choice. I deserved to be free. The house hadn't changed. Not the crooked wall clock ticking just a second off rhythm, not the dull flicker of the hallway bulb, and certainly not the air, stale and heavy with things left unsaid. But something in me had shifted. I had changed. The birthday confrontation had cleaved through the last of my illusions like a blade. And they knew it. My parents tiptoed around me like they were unsure how to engage, as if I might explode at the slightest word. Emily barely acknowledged my presence, though that wasn't new. What was new was that I didn't care. I didn't need her recognition. I didn't need their validation. All I needed now was time. Just a few more weeks. The days that followed were a quiet countdown to the college entrance exams. While other students crammed with desperation, I approached my studies with calm precision. My body may have returned to 17, but my mind carried 10 more years of knowledge. Equations, essays, vocabulary drills. They were second nature now. In the first life I had scraped by with decent scores. This time I planned to rise. And I did. Mock test after mock test I climbed to the top of the rankings. Teachers noticed. Some students whispered. Others stared. But I didn't indulge any of it. Every ounce of my focus was reserved for that one date circled on the calendar. The day the exams would end. The day I would leave. Meanwhile, Emily began unraveling. She never fully recovered from that birthday night. From the crowd's silent judgment, from Ryan's rejection, from the social fallout of humiliating herself and still losing. Whispers followed her in the hallways. Some pitied her. Others mocked her. Ryan stopped speaking to either of us. His ego had been bruised beyond repair by her words, and I had made sure he understood that he'd only been a pawn in a larger game. After that he vanished from my daily radar, and I didn't mind. Let them both vanish. A week before the exam, Emily stormed out of school in tears. She'd bombed a mock arts test. A careless mistake with her USB backup. Overwriting a final project. The teacher, cold and blunt, told her she'd lost her shot at her dream art university. She would have to return to academics. Only she hadn't studied anything else in months. That night at dinner, the house was uncomfortably quiet. Emily picked at her rice, my parents silently exchanging glances. When I stood to leave the table, my mother spoke without looking at me. Lily, after the exams, we'd like you to stay. I paused. Why? My father cleared his throat. You're a good girl. We haven't always treated you fairly. Your mom and I want to make it up to you. I smiled politely. Because Emily's plans fell apart? No, my mother snapped. Don't be dramatic. You're only interested now because I don't need anything from you, I said gently, laying down my chopsticks. That's not love. That's convenience. I stood. And I'm not staying. My father's voice was stern. Don't throw away your family. I'm not, I said. I'm walking away from people who threw me away first. They didn't stop me. They just sat there, quiet, finally speechless. On the last day of the exam, I walked out of the school building into the golden warmth of June sunlight. The air felt lighter than it had in weeks. Grandma and Grandpa were waiting at the gate just like they always had in elementary school. Grandma waved, eyes brimming with pride. Grandpa gave me a solid nod. Let's go, I said, already walking ahead. They didn't ask questions. They didn't try to guilt me. They just came along. Back at the house, I changed out of my uniform, packed my suitcase in silence, and stepped into the living room one final time. Emily was sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine without really looking at it. Leaving already? She asked without glancing up. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then, they'll probably give you my room now. I don't want it, I said. More silence. Then she said, you think you're better than us now? No, I replied. I know I deserve better than this. She flinched. But didn't stop me. As I walked out the front door, my mother stood at the base of the stairs. Her expression unreadable. Her mouth open like she was going to say something. Maybe a goodbye, maybe an insult, maybe nothing at all. I didn't wait. I simply nodded, walked down the steps and never looked back. That summer, I lived with my grandparents in the countryside. A place once filled with my childhood longing and now blooming with quiet peace. Grandma baked soft bread every morning. Grandpa read the newspaper aloud on the porch. And I, for the first time in both lives, felt still. There was no drama. No manipulation. No constant reaching for something I'd never be given. I studied for university interviews. I went on long walks. I even planted flowers. I wasn't healing. I had already healed. Now I was becoming something new. One day as I swept the veranda, my grandmother stepped out with a warm towel for my neck. Lily, she said gently, you're different. I looked up at her. How so? You don't flinch anymore, she said. You used to always look like someone was about to hit you. Even when no one did. I thought about that. Then I smiled. I guess I don't live in fear anymore. She touched my cheek softly. No, you live like a girl who knows who she is. In early August, I received a letter in a thick envelope, stamped with gold embossed lettering. I opened it on the porch. Grandma watched, holding her breath. I smiled. First-tier university, I said. Full scholarship. She let out a loud cry, wrapping her arms around me. We stood there like that for a long while. The sun warm on our backs, the world silent except for the distant rustling of trees. I had done it. Without them. The university campus smelled of fresh coffee and warm brick. Old buildings laced with ivy, courtyards strung with light and noise. The buzz of new beginnings swirled around me as I stepped onto the stone paths of the next chapter in my life. It was orientation week and everything was chaos in the most delightful way. Flyers fluttered. Clubs shouted across courtyards. Seniors wore sashes. Someone had tied balloons to the back of a professor's bicycle. But I walked slowly, intentionally, like someone not searching, just arriving. I passed students chatting under ginkgo trees, others holding trays of welcome cupcakes. For once I felt invisible in the best way. Until I heard that voice. Need a hand. The voice was warm. Familiar. It landed somewhere in my chest like a small echo from a life I hadn't thought about in years. I turned. He was standing in front of a table labeled Literature Society, wearing a loosely fitted white shirt, sleeves rolled, an ID lanyard around his neck. His smile wasn't flashy. It was kind. Grounded. And peeking out from the side pocket of his canvas bag was a wallet. Not just any wallet, the wallet. Stitched navy leather. Slightly worn edges. The same tiny white thread I remembered as if it had been stitched across my memory too. I froze. It was him. The real him. It happened when I was 15. That day after school, during a sudden downpour, I'd slipped outside the east gate. Emily had refused to wait. I was alone, drenched, scraping my knee on the curb. And then he had been there. A stranger in a gray hoodie, kneeling beside me with a gentle touch and an umbrella. He had reached into his bag for tissues. That was when I saw the wallet. And somehow, I never saw his face clearly. I was flustered. It was raining. He left in a rush. Later, when Ryan, my new classmate, walked into homeroom with a similar frame and voice, I'd assumed. I mistook gratitude for affection. I mistook Ryan for the boy who had been kind to me. And everything spiraled from there. But now I saw him clearly. He noticed me staring and tilted his head. "You all right?" he asked. I managed, still stunned. "You offered me tissues once." He blinked. Then smiled. "I do that a lot." "It was raining," I added. "By the east gate of Dahlia High. 3 years ago. You had that wallet then." He glanced down at the stitched leather, visibly surprised. "You remembered that?" I nodded slowly. He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "That's wild. I remember helping a girl who fell. She was crying, wouldn't look at me. That was me." He studied my face for a second, something lighting up behind his eyes. "Wow," he said finally. "Guess I've been found." I let out a small laugh, sudden and real. "I spent years thinking someone else was you. Someone nicer, I hope?" I looked him in the eye. "No. Not nicer." He smiled, but there was a pause, a respectful one, like he sensed something deeper underneath my words. Then he reached his hand out. "I'm Theo. 2nd year. Lit major. Still carries tissues." I took it. "Lily. 1st year. History. No longer cries alone at gates." His laugh was warm, easy. "Well, Lily. You want to sit?" He gestured to the table behind him. "I'd like that." We sat under the shade of a maple tree as the afternoon wore on. We didn't talk about trauma or families or the ghosts of people who had wronged us. We talked about books. And music. And why he stitched that wallet himself one summer when he was broke but sentimental. He didn't know he had been a turning point in my life. And I didn't tell him. Not yet. When I returned to my dorm that evening, the windows were open and a soft breeze rustled the curtain. I unpacked slowly, placing my things one by one. On my desk sat an old photo I had kept from my childhood. A picture of me and my grandparents, all sun hats and strawberry juice. The only people who had never asked me to be anything other than myself. Next to it, I placed a small framed quote I had written for myself the week before the exams. "You don't have to burn what hurt you. You just have to walk away from the fire." That night, I stood by the window, letting the campus hum settle around me. I didn't miss Ryan. I didn't hate Emily. I didn't even resent my parents anymore. Not because they had changed, but because I had. They no longer held anything I wanted. I had stopped chasing people who only loved versions of me that made their lives easier. Now I had a new city, a stitched wallet across campus, and the full story of who I was, not as a twin, not as a mistake, not as a shadow, but just as Lily. The end.